Good morning, Lucas. How are you?
I am good. I'm good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Yeah, it is 11 o'clock here in New York, so I'm a little more caffeinated than the rest of you probably, but
Amazing. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, you bet. How many people are we expecting today?
I believe there should be like two more. Yes.
Got it. Cool.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Andrea. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Dildora. Is everyone here West Coast based?
I am, yes.
Okay, cool. All right, Mavlon, you just let me know when everyone's here, when you want me to get started.
Sure. There should be one more guy. He's here. Yeah, we can get started now.
Great.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another class today. With us today, Lucas. Lucas is Senior Sales Development Representative at Simpplr, a fast-growing startup, and he's been one of the best top-performing SDRs in his team. And he completely reimagined the way they sequence, write emails, how they approach personalization in his work, and reached a senior SDR position in just 8 months. And today he gave us an honor of sharing his knowledge and talking about the sales philosophy and how to do sales the right way. And for that, we thank him, and I let you.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it, Mavlon. Mavlon and I go kind of way back to my days at San Francisco State. We joined an entrepreneurship program together, and yeah, we both had a lot of ideas and have stayed in touch. So thanks for inviting me. As you mentioned, I'm a senior SDR at Simpplr right now. Simpplr is a Series C startup. We are a SaaS provider for intranets. So if you guys don't know what an intranet is, some companies you may have worked at might use a SharePoint for Microsoft, a Confluence for Atlassian, even Google Sites. It's basically what we like to call a virtual communications hub, right? And so before I get started today, I kind of wanted to go around and let everyone, I'm curious to hear why all of you chose to be here today, right? And it's intentionally ambiguous. There's no perfect answer. There's no right answer. I'm sure everyone's got a different one, but sales is a very, it takes a certain type of person and a certain type of mentality. And that's not to say that there's one specific. There's a lot of different approaches, but I'm just curious to hear why you guys are all here today. And hopefully I can use some of your answers to kind of inform the way that I go about the conversation and the presentation. So Dildora, if you'd like to start, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, nice to meet you, Lucas, first of all. So what I'm here is as far as I know, the B2B sales, and in this sphere, the people cannot study anywhere. So this is a good opportunity for me to know about how to organize meetings and how to organize the pipeline. So that's why I'm here. I want to know this. I want to get this opportunity. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I know that there's a lot of popular LinkedIn posts and different business sources saying, why are we not teaching sales in school, right? It's a very necessary skill for life. So I love that answer.
Thank you.
I am very intimidated to pronunciate names wrong. Mukabat? Am I saying it right?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Hi, Lucas. It's nice to meeting you. The reason I'm learning about B2B sales is because I want to actually learn more about sales and, and really learn about how to do B2B sales, because I really want to be able to sell SaaS software and maybe in the future, like create my own SaaS software and use this skill as a stepping stone.
Sweet. Love that. Love that. Thank you for sharing. Andre, if you'd like to go next.
Well, I'm here for the hustle. I'm definitely trying to grind and see how much I can accumulate. It's funny. The other day, was I tend to race people on the streets. I have kind of like a fast car, and I pulled up next to a Tesla Plaid. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with the Tesla Plaid, but it's one of the fastest cars in the world right now. And he obviously blew me out of the water, but I asked the guy what he did for a living, and it turns out that he was an SDR manager, and I was like, that's pretty impressive. So it's definitely going to be a stepping stone, and I hope to grow with Mavlonbek, and see where this opportunity can take me.
Great. Thanks for sharing. Okay, I'm gonna try this one and I'm gonna fall flat on my face. Shekzadbek.
Yes, sure. Good evening, and I'm here. Why I'm here is to learn more about B2B sales, because in the future, I'm going to open my business in the information technology. That is why I'm really eager to learn about the B2B sales. As you know, to start your business, you should be in the first step, you should be worker where the sales for your improving your business. That is why Mavlonbek gives us this opportunity, and I want to take the advantage of this opportunity.
Awesome. Awesome. Good to hear it. We've got Narulo.
So good morning, nice to meet you. So I'm in the B2B sales because being a sales manager or SDR is one of the top things that people like. It's one of the best skill that people should gain, because if you can sell everything, you can achieve many things in your life, first of all. And I was also entered into the B2B sales many months ago, and I wanted to learn many things and to be internationally SDR manager. Therefore, I'm here. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to gain many things, many knowledge from you, from Mavlonbek and other, to be strongly sell SDR, to be senior SDR manager.
Yep, love that. They get paid pretty well, so love that. All right, and then we should have one more. Javakir.
Hi everyone. How are you, Lucas?
I'm doing very well. Yeah, I've had my coffee this morning. I've switched to water now, and ready to.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
And why I'm here, the exact reason is nowadays our country in Uzbekistan, the government focusing very well to the startups, the IT industry. And why I'm here is get the experience, get the exact knowledge how to build a company, how to make the B2B sales and others. Even you see in my t-shirt, there is a written unicorn.
Love it. Love it. Sweet. So your aspiration is also to start a company one day then as well?
Yeah.
Great. I think that's everyone. Did I miss anyone?
You covered everyone.
Awesome. Well, sweet. Yeah, sounds like there are a lot of future entrepreneurs here. And so, with that, I'd like to start off with the obvious to some, and that is that if you can't sell your product, then you don't make any money, right? And so sales is really at the heart of every successful business, regardless of the product or the industry. And so what's interesting about some of Mavlon and I's talks earlier about Salesfinity is he has surrounded himself with people who would be using the products, right? Customers, and very much getting to know the people that he's selling to. And for an entrepreneur and for a good salesperson, this is the heart of success, is getting to know the person that you're trying to sell to, right? It's not, and when I say get to know, I don't mean how is my product going to help you or make your life better. Like it's really a bit deeper than that. It's really who they are, what makes their job difficult, what makes their job stressful, and then empathizing with that and really listening to them, right? I think a lot of people get on the phone and they want to pitch as fast as possible. They want to tell them all about these amazing features and functions of their product and their service. But the end of the day is that they really don't care about any of that. They don't care about your product. They don't care about you. They care about how you're going to make their life and their job easier, right? And if you're not listening to them, if you're not giving them a space to tell you what makes their job difficult and what makes their life hard, then you'll never really know how to position a meeting, right? Or position the value of your product. And so I very much try to avoid pitching. I have a 2-sentence blurb on, what Simpplr is, right? Just to provide context if it's necessary in a conversation, but it's really should be centered around the person that you're talking to. So part of what I did when I joined Simpplr, like most companies, there was a lot of information about our product. Here's Simpplr, here's what we do, here's some of the functions and the functionalities and all of these things about us and our product. But I took a different approach. Obviously, I wanted to be very familiar with the product, but that would come over time, right? What was important to me early on was who are we talking to, right? So for my product, I'm going to use this as an example, of course, for today's session and how I've kind of approached the strategy and the philosophy. It's B2B software, and the 3 departments or personas that we sell to, whose lives we make easier, is internal communications, human resources, and IT. I think it's funny that a lot of you guys are kind of coming from different IT backgrounds, so this should be interesting. And really getting to know those personas, right? What does it mean to be an internal communications director, right? What does it mean to be a CIO? What does it mean to be an HR business partner or an employee engagement, survey master, or whatever because within these departments, of course, there's all sorts of functions. And so it's for us to identify what's relevant within these different functions. And really, again, understand why, what really bothers them the most about their job. How can, if they could flip a switch and make something easier or change something, what would that be, right? And so I've got a brief presentation that I actually prepared for my own team about a month ago. And when I joined, there didn't seem to be kind of a very much intent behind some of the calls that we were making. I think for some of you in the room, you might think that 100 calls a day or however many, is necessary for success. I average lower amounts of calls than some of my colleagues, right? And a lot lower, right? I probably average about 40 calls a day, 45 calls a day. I have colleagues in the 60s and 70s that book less than half the meetings that I do, right? And it's not because I'm working harder, it's because I'm working smarter, right? And that's goes back to the purpose and the intent behind some of your outreach and your strategy. Okay, so the presentation that I made is about cold calling. But this type of some of the things in here, the messaging and the approach is suitable for emails as well. Again, the overlying philosophy is that it's centered on the person that you're talking to, right? Utilizing empathy, right? A lot of the people that we're talking to, we aim for directors and above. Okay, so we're all very young in this room, and we don't have jobs that necessarily take up 80 hours a week. We don't have kids and a family to manage, and all sorts of finances and very complicated things like that, as some of these people do. And so from the get-go, you need to understand that you are an interruption. They have a very busy life and day, and they don't have time for your cold call. And so going into it with the understanding that, the only way that they're going to talk to me is if I can help them. And if I'm actually listening to them, you're going to have more success, right? So when you look at my call volume, it's again, 40 to 45 calls a day, but the average duration that I'm able to stay on the phone is about 4 times longer than everyone else, right? And when you're talking to directors and VPs and C-suite level people, 10 minutes for somebody that you've never met is unheard of, right? And again, keeping it focused on them, giving them a reason to stay on the line and be like, well, it makes sense to keep talking, is going to help you. It's really actually the only thing that's going to keep them on the line, right? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. There's the presentation. We'll do this. Nice. Okay. Yeah. So I made this about a month ago for my team because I wanted to help them understand how I was going about cold calls. Great. So to start it off, I found this quote and I love it. It resonates with me a ton. And it is that salespeople should be shepherds and servants, not charlatans. I think salespeople in general have a really, really bad reputation, right? You're coming in, you're interrupting my day. All you want to do is pitch and tell me about this thing and get me to buy something that I don't want. And ultimately that makes it difficult for some of us who are actually trying to provide value to somebody, right? Because before you even start the conversation, they already want to hang up, right? And what we really want to do is help solve some problems, right? Not try and tell them about our thing and it be about us. Now there's another rule of communication here, and you can look this up. It's pretty well researched. That is the 738-55 rule. Okay, so 7% of communication is the words that you use, 38% is the tone that you use, and 55% is the body language that you're using, right? Unheard of things where if someone is they could say, oh yeah, I'd totally love to do that, but they're kind of twitching their arm and kind of not looking you in the eyes. You might say, well, that sounds like a flaky response, right? Like, okay, they're saying yes, but I'm seeing no, and their tone reflects anxiety. And so I don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to do this thing or show up to this meeting or whatever it is. Whereas over the phone, when you subtract the 55% body language, your tone is 84% of what the person you're talking to is going to take away from the conversation that you're having, right? If your tone reflects, monotone, you sound like a robot, a cold call, a normal cold caller, a telemarketer. I mean, you're done, right? From the get-go, your greeting and your opener has to have intent and positive tone, right? Engaging tone more than anything. And we'll get into a little bit of that later, right? But the important point here is that the words that you use, the script that you're given, right, is not going to bring you success. There's a lot more to it. So hopefully this presentation will kind of lift up the hood on the car here, per se. And we ran through this exercise when I have been presenting this. We don't necessarily have to do this, but I'll give some examples. When we talked about words being 16% and tone being 84%, you could imagine so many different ways to say, please, sir, could you give me some coffee, right? You can express so many different emotions with the same words, right? And so it's important that we're mindful of that over the phone for the words that we're choosing, how we're saying them, what type of message we're trying to communicate with our tone, right? So you could say, desperate, please, sir, could you give me some coffee? Thankful, right? Oh, please, sir, could you give me some coffee? Angry, right? You could express this angrily. You could be nervous. Please, sir, could you give me some coffee, right? So many different ways to say this exact sentence depending on your tone, right? And that's really what we're getting at here. Again, something I was talking about earlier, if you're selling B2B, you will not be calling, I mean, even a manager is a fairly low-level person to be talking to because they don't have enough buying influence. They don't have enough understanding of the big picture to be able to make decisions and ultimately, purchase software. That's all going to happen at directors, VPs, and the C-suite level. And the reality is these people, even more than managers, are extremely busy and they get a lot of cold calls. They don't want to hear it. And they, off the bat, see no value in staying on the phone because of all of the salespeople who have come before you, product pitching and making them feel uncomfortable and trying to make them do things they don't want to do, right? And this is the reality of the situation. And this is the perception that they have of us, right? There's nothing we can do about that until we get on the phone, right? So I want to go through openers, right? How to actually start a conversation, finding pain, some of the bulk, right? Where we want them to open up a little bit about, what is making their life difficult. But if we just say, what's making your life difficult? It's like, who are you? I've never even met you. This is weird. I'm hanging up. Goodbye, right? So it takes a bit of understanding of how to transition into these questions for people to be able to feel comfortable opening up. And then again, and to some, most importantly, is the ask, right? How do you actually have someone stay on the line, open up about their reality and their job and improvements that they'd like to see, and then how do you translate all of what they've told you into validation for another conversation, right? A meeting, right? That's the three parts I want to break down here. So again, this is the perception. So we want to help them forget that they're on a cold call, right? Because some of the stuff here might actually really be important for them, right? Might actually make their lives easier, but nobody seems to be able to position it in a way that makes sense for them, right? We want them to open up about some of the positive improvements they'd like to see, right? And shift from this is from their perception. We don't want to make them feel like they're helping us by taking this meeting. We want it to be, we want them to feel like you're helping me, right? We are helping them. And that goes back to the servant versus the charlatan mentality, right? So we really want to break their train of expectation, right? I don't think small talk is bad if it's used with intent, right? And we'll get into these bullet points specifically later. But again, knowing that they answer a call from a random number, they're already looking for an excuse to hang up. And so we've got to break their train of thought a little bit because that's the only way we're going to get through to them. Again, keeping in mind how important your tone is, and really connecting the dots for them, right? When you get pain, you want to use those same words to be able to tie them into some of the logic for why it's relevant and important to continue the conversation. So here are some examples of some openers, and in red, you're going to see small talk used with no intent, where it just gets awkward, right? And so these are all based on responses that I've actually heard over the phone, either through reviewing colleagues' calls, and some of the green ones are my own, and some of my own calls that I've reviewed recordings to hear what they've said. So, hey, this is blank from Salesfinity. How's your day going so far? It's like, oh my God, I'm so busy. I definitely don't have time to talk to you about my day. Who are you? What do you want? Please, I'm not interested. Goodbye. Right? Actually, I'm busy. Listen, immediately, most of the time for higher level people, they'll just tell you straight up, hey, I appreciate the call, but I'm really not interested in whatever you're selling. I don't have time for this conversation. Right? Something that I've tried, and this is amongst a few other ones, right, is I know I'm calling you completely out of the blue right now. What am I interrupting? Right? Okay, I've acknowledged that I'm an interruption. And now it's like, okay, well, actually, I just got out of a team meeting. Another response here was getting survey results from a survey we just conducted. Another one was trying to publish some company events, right? Get the word out. Now, the conversation that those turned into, these are some of the green ones that I've heard. Just got out of a team meeting. Wow, team meetings on a Friday. Must be important, right? Oh yeah, well, we're dealing with this issue. And then all of a sudden you're having an organic conversation. It's like, oh, you're having a team meeting on a Friday? Gosh, that, must be important. And then they led on about what that team meeting was about. Oh, cool. So you're working on an initiative for employee engagement. Well, that's interesting, because I've got this thing over here, right? And then you can kind of organically get into it. Another one here, getting results back from an employee survey we just conducted, right? This is what they're working on. Cool. What have you learned? Oh, well, it turns out, 40% of employees don't feel connected to the company. Oh, well, that's kind of a big deal, right? Now you're taking, again, you're using what they're giving you as ammunition, right? For why it might make sense to have a conversation, how you can help them. Great. This is another response I've used is, oh, that's awesome. Is that the main way that you guys measure employee sentiment, right? Surveys. And you might have a conversation about measuring employee sentiment, which is another thing that Simpplr does, right? Trying to publish some company event dates. Well, that's interesting. What tools do you guys use to get the word out? Oh, well, I'm currently publishing on SharePoint. And then all of a sudden it's an organic conversation about SharePoint and some of the struggles there, right? Where you might say, well, how do you, do you find that that's, do you find that people are engaging with those events on SharePoint, right? So again, you're seeing the pattern interrupt, where you're using empathy, you're interrupting their day. And so they feel like, oh, okay, at least he's genuine enough to admit that he's interrupting my day, right? Oh, well, this is what I'm working on, right? And so it leaves room for conversation, right? I'm not asking them directly, what tools are you guys using from the get-go? Hi, I'm Lucas from Simpplr. I'm curious how you guys are getting the word out. It's like, it came organically, right? And that's really the focus here. Another one, right? When we talk about, so those are openers. When we're talking about finding pain, right? You really want to have conversations. If you just ask 5 questions in a row, they're going to hang up, or they're going to start giving you faulty half-ass answers, right? And both of those don't help. So you might say, what tools are you currently using to communicate with employees, right? What problems are you having right now? It's like, geez, like I didn't even know I was having problems. Like, I don't really want to tell you about it, right? You're just some random person calling me. So I might say, a lot of our customers used to use tools like X and Y. How are you guys making sure that blank is happening, right? And it kind of leads to, oh, we're using these right now, X and Y, right? Like, oh, why are your customer, all of a sudden you're kind of inciting curiosity, like, well, okay, they switched to you guys, like, Why? You know, you're building curiosity. Oops. Oh boy. Here we go. No, there we go. Right. And this is another one I've used where, hey, you know, the cool thing about my job is I get to have conversations with people like you all the time. And I keep hearing this problem, right, where you can be upfront about it. For IT, you might say, you know, that I keep hearing from other IT directors that their team is just buried in tickets for these minor requests for helping people find information, right? How is your team minimizing that right now? And they might be upfront and say, we're not. It's a huge problem for us. And you might say, and of course, that is the green light then to have a further conversation about how we're helping teams do that. They might say, well, yeah, it's kind of a problem, but it's just something that kind of naturally happens with IT, right? That's always going to be a function of ours, is to deal with those things. And you might say, well, that's interesting because we found that customers like, you know, Capterra or Nutanix are actually seeing their IT tickets erased, right? They've created a self-help culture with Simpplr, right? And again, inciting in curiosity, right? You're not necessarily just saying, hey, you know, what are you doing? How can I help? It's building credibility and curiosity, right? Credibility with customers we have and the people that I talk to, and curiosity with logical questions that follow, right? Again, now we've got some of, I wanted to put some of the responses that I've heard. These are actual recorded answers, right? And so you might ask, what problems are you having at a company right now? And they'll say, well, you know what? I think we're good. Thanks. Your prospect does not see a reason to answer this question at all, right? They're not interested in a conversation with someone random who's just looking to pull, take information from them. A lot of customers used to use tools like X and Y. How are you guys making sure that this is happening, right? Well, actually, we looked at X, but it didn't work out because we were looking for something with this type of functionality, right? And they didn't have it. Well, that's really interesting. Why is that important to you guys, right? Whatever the product is, you know, if you can get a prospect to tell you about something that they're looking for, that came out organically, right? I didn't even ask them to tell me what's really important to them. But because I built credibility and curiosity, it was only natural for them to answer the question honestly. So, okay, yeah, well, you know, we looked at that, but they didn't have auto governance engine. They didn't have smart search, right? Whatever it is for different tools relevant to you. Now you have gold. This is important to them. Now you might say, well, that's really interesting because, you know, right now we just released this update that does exactly this, right? I mean, does that sound like that's something that's worth a conversation later this week, right? Your meeting. The cool thing about blah, blah, blah is, you know, so how are you guys minimizing that impact? And they might literally tell you, actually, that's been a huge struggle for this year, and we really have not figured that out, right? It's like, well, that's something that we help companies with every day. You know, does solving that problem sound like it's worth 15, 20 minutes next week to talk about, right? I'm not selling you my intranet. We're solving this problem together, right? And that's genuine, right? So, yeah. Finally is the ask, right? And that's how we go for meetings, right? If you, and this will be at a later slide, if you use, there are some words in sales that set off alarms in people's heads, right? You might say, are you free for a meeting next week? It's like, oh my God, no, I don't want to have a meeting. Like that sounds like I am not interested, right? Or you might want a demo. It's like, no, I don't want to see a demo because I don't want to buy software right now. I'm just looking to solve this problem. So instead of a meeting next week, you might say, hey, based on X and Y issues that you're having, would it be helpful to set up some time this Thursday to show how we solve that problem that you're having, right? Would you like to see a personalized demo? You know, hey, it sounds like improving X and Y is going to be a priority for you guys this year, right? Because I've already done the diligence to find out what's important to them and why this meeting makes sense. They don't want your product. They want the problem solved. So you have to figure out what the problem is, right? And use that in your ask. So X and Y issues you're having, X and Y things are a priority for your team, right? Would it make sense to give you a live look at Simpplr next week, right? I avoid these alarm terms, as I call them, right? Meeting, demo, and I'll have a slide for them here later. Right, so again, some examples. Are you free for a meeting next week? Honestly, I don't have time, but send me an email. That'll be the most common thing you'll ever get. And I promise you 99% of people don't even open or respond to your email. They're just trying to get off the phone without being rude, right? Would you like to see a personalized demo? I'm really not prepared to have a demo, and I'm not the person who can purchase your software, right? Because obviously that takes a village. So very, very easy to object to these things, right? Hey, it sounds like you're really trying to improve X and Y, right? And this is going to be a priority. Would it make sense to give you a live look next week? Yeah, you know what? Let me loop in a colleague too. I think this would be relevant to them, and they might want to be part of the conversation. Now, all of a sudden, not only do you have a meeting with this director, they're inviting their VP because you've validated why this is relevant and important, right, to the problem that they're trying to solve. And it's really not, it looks really easy. It's not super easy, but if you practice it, it becomes easy, right? Because the focus is on the person that you're talking to, right? You're not sitting here waiting for the opportunity to recite your pitch. Like oftentimes I don't even pitch Simpplr that much, right? To get my meetings, because I'm talking, the whole conversation is about the problem that they're having and hopefully how I can solve it in the ask. So these are kind of the alarm terms, right? There are some words here that you just like, as soon as you read them, you cringe. You're like, oh my God, like, oh, what are your pain points? Like, oh, do you want to have a meeting, right? Let's see a demo. Like, oh, I'm calling in regards to Simpplr. Like, oh my God, like I can't wait to get off the phone, right? You're a telemarketer, you're wasting my time and you're interrupting my day, right? There are so many other ways to say the same thing that don't set off alarms and that don't sell, that don't give off like a very, predatorial vibe, right? And it's just taking the small steps to tweak that, to acknowledge that this exists, right? We can't keep using the same things. We have to be empathetic with the perception that the people we're calling have, right? And so you might say, see Simpplr in action instead of demo. Let's, have a quick chat. Would it make sense to continue the conversation, right? Meeting, right? It's the same thing as a meeting. It's just, how do you say it? How do you propose it? Instead of saying, I'd love to do this, or I think it would make sense to do this, right? You might ask them, right? This is permission-based approval, right? Where would it make sense to do this? Or would it be helpful for me to send you an invite next week to talk about solving this problem, right? Let it be their decision, not yours, right? And instead of saying, oh, I'm calling in regards to this, right? Hey, Lucas from Simpplr. Turns out hybrid work is here to stay, and talking to a lot of other IT leaders like you, some of them are curious about more modern ways to make information easy to find for employees working remote, right? Whatever it is, you guys can, all sorts of different versions of this. But the point is that the whole overarching point of this is that you have to be empathetic with the person you're talking to, right? Otherwise, they're not going to take a meeting, right? You can make 1,000 calls a day. I'll book more meetings than you making 50 dials, than you making 1,000 and trying to do this stuff, right? So, I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, we've still got 20 minutes left. I'd love to hear if you guys have any thoughts or questions, the rest of this time is going to be for you guys.
Amazing, Lucas. Really enjoyed it and learned a tons. Thank you for sharing this. This absolutely translates to emails and anything else as well. Like instead of pitch slapping, like, hey, reaching out from this and that, use more personalized approach, right? Like first you find out what the problem is and offer a solution before pitch slapping people. Amazing.
Yeah. I've got stuff on emails too. I mean, maybe we can do another session some other time, but yeah, for now, you know, if anybody had any thoughts or questions or examples or stories to share, you know, the rest of this time is for you guys. So.
Very informative. I really appreciate everything that you were able to unpack with us. Thank you so much. I have a couple questions. What do you do if while you're organically talking to them and you find out the problem that they're having is not relevant to what you're selling?
So there's a couple of avenues to take, right? And it would really depend on the context, right? If it's something completely not relevant, right? I'm trying to think of an example because you can, let's say employee retention is a problem, right? Our product is about internal comms and employee engagement, right? And they might say, well, we're not struggling with that. We're struggling with turnover, right? It's like, okay, well, why do you think people are leaving, right? Because you're not engaged with them and you're not communicating with them, right? And so a lot of kind of higher level problems will have underlying root causes, right? And so you might speak to one of the root causes that's relevant to your product. If you're talking about Salesfinity, and you might say, yeah, you know, our connection rates are super low, right? For emails, right? You might say, well, you know, we measure different response rates, you know, at the same, or whatever it is, right? Where so you can repackage the value proposition, or if it's really not relevant, you might just realize you're talking to the wrong person, right? That happens all the time where I call somebody in HR and they say, well, no, I kind of oversee the HRIS software and payroll, right? It's like, oh, well, this is not the person that I want to be talking to. Like, you might ask for a referral. It's like, yeah, based on, you know, the conversation we've had and some of the stuff that you've learned about what we do, is there anyone that you have in mind that you think might be more relevant to what to some of the problems that we're solving, right? So you might ask for a referral. And I'd say about 30-40% of the time you get a solid referral, right? And hit rates on those are phenomenal, right? If you can get a referral from an HR director to an internal comms VP, I mean, you're at least going to get a response, which is hard enough, which will give you some room to play around. So yeah, I'd say either repackage the value proposition to be relevant to them as an underlying root cause to their problem that doesn't seem relevant, or go for a referral, right? Be human. Like, hey, this sounds like it does not pertain to you. Totally fine. You know, is there somebody that, if you've done a good enough job explaining some of the problems that we solve, somebody should come up in their head that you might be able to help, right? So,
thank you.
Yep.
That was a question I was going to ask, but yeah, you already told that you will be asking that person to refer that VP or other person that you can help.
Yeah, and I want to be clear too, right? I think when we go to the list here, right, and we talk about these alarm words, referral, right? That could be added there too, because there's just something about the word that can be interpreted negatively, right? Where now their reputation's on the line, which it is, but when you say referral, they're way more aware of it. So you might say, I would personally avoid to use the word referral when asking for a referral, if that makes sense.
What word would you might use in order to not use
Yeah. Again, I like to use the word conversation, right? It's a very minimal kind of
communicates well?
well, it communicates well, but it also doesn't seem like a big deal, right? It's a conversation, right? It's not a meeting, it's not a demo. We're just going to have a conversation, right? Who doesn't want to have a conversation about a problem that you're looking to solve, right? So you might say, well, yeah, you know what? Based on what I'm hearing, this sounds like something that might not be super relevant to you, right? Is there anyone you have in mind that this might be more relevant to have a conversation with, right? So it's more of a phrase than a word, if that makes sense. And you guys can come up with these on your own. But yeah, generally staying on the trend of avoiding those alarm terms, right? To set people off and get defensive, right?
Thank you.
Completely agree with this. This happened to me once. I reached out to somebody and they were not the right person to reach out. And I asked for not a referral. I said, like, is there any person who might be a better fit to talk? And they said, like, I will give you the person, but you cannot tell that I referred you. Like, I said, absolutely. And after that confirmation, they gave me the person's name and the information.
Yeah, right. They know it's a referral. They know what it is.
Yes.
But
candy wrapped.
yeah, well, it's candy wrapped and it's just easier on the mental, right?
Yes.
So
And Lucas, do you collect the results? For example, how much of your customers are started working with you using your software, like in a month? I mean, your results.
I guess it was kind of breaking up there for a second. Could you kind of rephrase your question? Sorry.
You were collecting your results. How many of your customers are using your software in a month? I mean, the fresh customers that you reached out.
Yeah. Okay. So you're asking how the close rate for the meetings that I book. Yeah. So I don't have a close rate. My role has evolved quite a bit since my promotion. So you start at Simpplr, you start inbound, where somebody downloads an ebook or they watch a webinar, they take some sort of action and you follow up with them. When I was promoted to Senior SDR, I am now fully outbound, right? I have a list of accounts and it's my job to start conversations with these accounts, right? So the function is different. A lot of the people that I brought in inbound, where somebody downloaded an ebook or signed up for a webinar, are now customers. I know that I brought in Fiverr. If you guys are familiar with Fiverr, the freelance website, they are now a customer of Simpplr that I talked to for a meeting. I'm trying to think of another one. I have more meetings that I've booked, that are kind of in the pipeline still, right? B2B software, for the most part, is not a very short timeline. Average cycle duration is probably about 4 to 6 months, right? For how long until first conversation to sign. So it takes a while, right?
46 months?
Yeah, so it depends on the product, right? But for our product, it's not, so Salesfinity would only be used in the sales team, right? So it's a smaller number of people. If you're going to buy an intranet, it is for the entire company, right? And so if you're talking to companies like Salesforce, Amazon, whoever, big companies, there are a lot of people that need to be brought into the conversation to agree to this, right? And so our software is the sales cycle is much more complex, right, than a Salesfinity or a Sales Loft or things that are only intended for certain departments. Does that make sense?
One more question. So, for example, if you call to the CPO, if you call to your person, for example, if he doesn't answer, doesn't take your phone, what will you do?
Well, we have cadences, right?
How many times will you will call them back?
Yeah, so we use SalesLoft for cadences, right? So I've created some of my own cadences where day one is call email, right? And then another one would be day 4, call email, right? And then some LinkedIn message. So basically it's about 16 touches over 30 days, right? So there are some days in between where I don't do anything or say anything, but yeah, no, I mean, in total it's probably about 6 calls, 7 maybe, probably per
Within a
person.
month.
Within a month, yeah.
Then you will be sending the break up the message, right?
Yeah. And the breakup message too is, oh, that's another thing. I could do a whole thing on emails. But yeah, that's probably a conversation for a later date.
So do you also use other, you will be sending cold email and you will be sending LinkedIn message and you will be calling to that person, and do you use any other kind of software to reach them? For example, many people they do use WhatsApp or other messengers to reach out to reach them out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't do that. I don't use other ones. I think when you talk about WhatsApp and texting and things like that, I think that for me personally, other salespeople might think differently. From my personal view is that that kind of crosses a line between personal and professional. You're talking to people who, it's one thing to call them between the hours of 9 and 5, right? And to email them and LinkedIn message them, but to try and reach out to them beyond those hours when it's their personal time for their families and so forth. I avoid that. So yeah, no, I just, it's call, email, and LinkedIn for me. But you can be resourceful about how you use those resources, right?
But I also have tried that one, and sometimes people leads answer to the WhatsApp or other messenger texts faster than the email or than the other LinkedIn message. Therefore wanted to get your opinion, personal opinion, and you know that you are you have very good experience. Therefore it's also one more knowledge for me.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of a reiteration of my last point, in the sense that I feel like I'm crossing a line, right? I am a professional and I do this for my job, and so are they, right? For whatever problem I'm trying to solve is professional. In America, WhatsApp is very casually used, right? It's more personal use. Maybe in other cultures, WhatsApp is almost like LinkedIn. It's fair game, right? Plenty of business conversations and things happen over WhatsApp. Maybe. I'm not too familiar with that. But yeah, I don't think that using more than phone, email, and LinkedIn is empathetic to the person that you're talking to, right? If you're just bugging, sure, you're going to get a response, but more than half the time they're going to tell you to leave them alone, or that they're not interested, or that it's not a good time, right? Just to get you to leave them alone. And so not every response is what you want, right? I would rather delay the response and have them respect me, knowing that I've respected them, I think that the chance of them actually being interested in a conversation and potentially buying software with us on an even playing field in terms of respect for each other than bombarding them with all sorts of different avenues, right? A Facebook message or a WhatsApp text or whatever it is. That's just my personal opinion. And again, I think there are a lot of ways, if you guys do some homework, to be creative with those three avenues, right? Phone, email, and LinkedIn. So for example, I have one step in all of my cadences where I make a call and the voicemail, I leave a voice. This is the only voicemail that I leave. I don't use voicemail. But I leave one voicemail and I say, hey, Mavlon, no need to call me back. I'm about to send you an email with the subject line, just called. And when you get a minute, I'd love to hear your feedback. This is Lucas with Simpplr, right? So you might use them in tandem in the sense that, okay, maybe they get 1,000 emails a day. Maybe they haven't opened any of your emails, but you left them a message telling them the subject line that they should look for, right? So they might actually then open your email and potentially respond, right?
Wow, that's good.
You captured their attention and now you have their curiosity.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, you again, you need to understand that the people that we're talking to get all sorts of crap emails. Like, you're not special, right? Your email and your phone call, not special, right? So it's part standing out and it's part just making sense for them, right? Okay, you've made it really easy for me to go and engage with you, right? And that's what it's about, us helping you. That's our job, is to make things easy for them, make it easy for them to have a conversation, make it easy for them to understand how we're going to make their life easier, or the problems that we're going to solve, right? That's our job, not to push them into something that they don't want to do. So
Lucas, I would like to first thank you for all the knowledge that you have shared with us about cold calling and everything. And I have a particular question about how do you reach out to people from LinkedIn? Because it's really hard to get a spontaneous and outrageous conversation with them on LinkedIn.
yeah, and LinkedIn can be very fruitful. I have a colleague who 80%, he's had to balance it a bit more lately, but 60%-ish of his outreach is LinkedIn based, right? He plays the very long game. He wants to have a very organic conversation, and LinkedIn is great. I have a couple of notes that I use. So when I'm sending a connection, right, I copy and paste this, right? So you might say, you know how it says when you're trying to add someone to your LinkedIn network, hey, and then the default is, I'd like to add you to my professional network or something, right? That's what they all say. I copy and paste this, right? So I say, hey, name, wanted to let you put a face to the emails I've been sending over the last week or so. Looking forward to hearing from you. It's like, well, gosh, okay. You're sorry. And I've had some responses. Sorry, you're in a mountain of emails. I can't get to them all, but how can I help? Or went and found it, right? Because they might go to their email and they might, look up, Lucas Kehs, right? It's like you're looking up this person. Oh, all these emails from this person. Okay, cool. Very helpful. Right. And where were we? Yeah. Okay. So that's what I send, right, with my connection request. It's not just a blank generic request. Like, there is a purpose for me reaching out to you. Hey, I've been sending you messages. Just wanted to let you put a face to the name, right? And if they accept 99% of the time, they just accept and they don't respond to this email. I follow up with a message with this, right? Hey, great to connect with you. I was wondering if you'd be the right person to talk to about blank at company, right? So if they're in IT, it's IT. If it's internal comms, it's internal comms, HR, whatever. If it's HR, it's a specific function, right? It might be employee engagement or, whatever it is relevant to what we do. And so immediately, if they respond to this, you have validated that any conversation you have will be relevant to them if they say yes, right? Like, hey, yep, I am the person to talk to about this, right? Okay, cool. Then you might call them rather than responding to their LinkedIn message. You might dial them on the spot once they respond, right? Say, hey, it's Lucas from LinkedIn. I just got your message, and go right into it, right?
Mhm.
So it's, just kind of being, having intent behind what we're doing, right? How does this help them? How does this make sense for them? How does this make talking to me easier, right? It's all about trying to make it's about them, right? So if you're obsessing over the other person's perspective and how to make things easy and logical for them to respond or talk, they're going to talk to you. Some of them. More of them than colleagues who take a robotic approach. Because I've got a colleague who is religious about some of the basically repackaged marketing emails that we have. And last month, she sent 12,000 emails and her response rate was 0.2%. Okay. Now of 12,000, you might say, well, 0.2%. I mean, it's not too terrible. That's 12,000 times 0.002. Oh, that's actually terrible. 24 responses.
Oh,
Right. So it's a Spitfire approach where you just blast out as many people as possible and try and get lucky. Right. But I'll guarantee you that more than half of those responses are people saying unsubscribe, not interested, remove me from this list, whatever. Right. So, whole process about them. I know I'm an interruption. How can I lighten the load? How can I make it easier for you? That's just about them. Just obsess over the person that you're talking to. So, their job, their life. So.
I know we're getting to the end of our meeting. So I want to a summary of your points or anything you want to leave us with. I know that it seems like it requires a lot of finesse in order to haggle with these folks in order to get them to buy your software. Anything else you care to share before you leave us?
Yeah, I would say, don't focus on the product. Your product doesn't matter to them, right? Stop learning and spending so much time learning about your product and the features, right? And the functionalities and the things that make it cool and shiny and interesting. Start learning about the people that you're targeting to talk to. And they'll talk to you because you understand what they're going through. And as an SDR, as a follow-up to that, we don't sell software. We are not the people who close the deal, right? We are the people who start the conversations. So stop trying to sell software and start trying to start conversations.
amazing. Thank you so much, Lucas. Really appreciate it for spending your valuable time with us, sharing all this valuable knowledge with us. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys for the questions and for your time. I hope this was helpful. And go get them.
Yeah, it was absolutely helpful.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, Mavlon, we can stay in touch if it'd be helpful to speak some more at another time, we can talk about it. So
Definitely. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
you bet. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye bye.